let's go ahead and get into the college football playoffs. So the quarterfinals have already concluded, and now I will say a lot of these games, much like the first round, were rather boring. A lot of these games were very boring. So let's start out with the probably like the least shocking outcome in my opinion, which was the Penn State Nittany Lions beating the Boise State Broncos. I mean, I saw this loss coming from a mile away. I don't know if any of you guys saw this loss coming from a mile away, but I for one definitely did. So Penn State ended up beating Boise State 31-14 in this game. And this was the one game where Ashton Jeanty actually looked mortal. This is probably his worst game of his entire season and probably his entire career. They were the first team to get eliminated after, of the teams that had a bye week, they were the first team to get eliminated, and their quarterback was bad. Ashton Jeanty was bad, and that's just a recipe for disaster, especially when you're going up against a team like the Nittany Lions. I mean, Penn State, they've more or less, especially in this season, they had a great run defense. So they matched up very, very well against Ashton Jeanty and against their offensive scheme. Because really, Boise State, the only thing that they can really do effectively is give the ball to Ashton Jeanty. You stop Ashton Jeanty, and more often than not, you're going to win the game, right? Oregon, they were very close to losing to these guys in the regular season, but Ashton Jeanty had a very good game. More on Oregon a little bit later, but it seems like when they play like an actual big team, like an actual really, really good team, that Ashton Jeanty was unable to do anything. And I'm not really blaming it on Jeanty. I'm more or less blaming it on the incompetence of the rest of the team, because Penn State, throughout their entire minds of the game, the only thing that they were really thinking about in this game was stopping Jeanty. I mean, their quarterback, Madux Madsen, ended the game. He did throw for 304 yards, but he also threw 3 interceptions in this game. He did throw for a touchdown, but again, those 3 interceptions were really, really bad. And Penn State, on the other hand, while their quarterback did not combine for a lot of air yards, he did throw 3 touchdowns, and they also got some great help on the ground game from Katron Allen, who rushed in for 134 yards, outplaying Ashton Jeanty. Again, Jeanty only ran for 104 yards on 30 attempts. That is 3.5 yards per carry for Ashton Jeanty. And this was a guy, a lot of people were crying when he didn't win the Heisman, and so far the claims that he wasn't going up against really competent teams and like those kinds of claims like that, they were proven true in this game. I personally don't think that he lost it because he wasn't playing competent teams. I personally think he lost it because there has never been a player like Travis Hunter. Like, Ashton Jeanty, we can say that we've seen so many different Ashton Jeantys, so many different great Hall of Fame tier level running backs, both in the league as well as in college. There has never been a player like Travis Hunter that can play on both sides of the floor in college as well as he does, and that's why he won the Heisman. But regardless, this game was never really close, and well, in the beginning it was a little bit close because the Lions, they weren't really doing all that much, but once I realized that that Penn State was able to stop Boise State from running the ball, I was like, okay, this game, I think Penn State's going to win it in the end. And I had a feeling that Penn State was going to win it. I figured that their run defense was going to be able to counter Ashton Jeanty, and that's what happened in this game. Now, the next game that we're going to talk about is the most competitive game of the quarterfinals, and that was Texas going up against Arizona State. This game went into double overtime. It was so intense. It didn't start out that way, though. Like, in the beginning of the game, Texas was up like 17-3 against Arizona State, and it really didn't seem like Arizona State belonged in the college football playoffs. But then, as the game went on, the Arizona State ended up coming back, and they ended up tying the score, and the game went into overtime. And in overtime, both teams ended up scoring, and then it had to go into a double overtime. In just 2 plays, in just 1 play, the Texas Longhorns ended up scoring a touchdown, and they ended up getting the 2-point conversion to make the score 39-31. And on the final play of the game, Arizona State ended up throwing an interception, losing the game. Now, this was a great game for Cam Skattebo, who he believes is the best running back in all of college football, and he definitely made an argument with this game. He ended up running for 143 yards, as well as 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also ended up passing for a touchdown in this game. Yeah, go figure. And he also ended up recording 8 receptions along with 99 receiving yards. This was his legacy game, and I think he's proven to be the best running back in this entire college football class, even better than Ashton Jeanty, just based off of this performance against a very competent SEC team. Now, I will say that this game ended up going into an overtime that was really unnecessary because Texas's kicker ended up missing 2 field goals, and those 2 field goals would have most likely put the game away already, but this is why we play the game, and this is most of the time in college football, like all of these kickers, for some reason, all of these kickers, they end up missing in the most important times. I understand why, because, they are just students while we talk about them as professional athletes, and while they are treated as professional athletes, they are still teenagers and they're still students who can't handle the pressure as well as the pros. So it makes sense, but this game was by far the most competitive game, and this game, it didn't start out competitive, but ultimately ended up being the best game of the entire week so far. And Texas, they're going to advance. And now we move on to the absolute smacking between Ohio State and Oregon. This game was never in doubt for Ohio State. This game was never, ever close. Howard in this game, their quarterback for Ohio State, threw for 3 touchdowns, 319 yards. Great game from him. But really, this game was all Jeremiah Smith. The Oregon Ducks, they could not defend this man at all. He recorded 187 receiving yards along with 2 touchdowns. He was unbelievable in this game. Nobody could stop him. And he's only a freshman. Like, think about that. He's younger than me, and he's just torching this defense. Oregon, this was the first time that they ended up losing a game this entire college football season. And this was the first time that the team actually looked like, mortal. They ended up beating Ohio State in the regular season, but obviously Ohio State was resentful of that, and they had a really good game plan against the Oregon Ducks. I don't know what happened. I guess the Oregon Ducks, they sort of just thought Ryan Day was going to roll over and take this, but that did not happen. I mean, this was a legacy game for Jeremiah Smith, and also a legacy game for former teammate and former classmate Cody Simon, my former classmate. He ended up becoming the defensive player of the game, leading the team in tackles, leading the team in solo tackles, leading the team in sacks, as well as leading the team in tackles for loss. He was just giving that quarterback a nightmare in the pocket. It was unreal. And he's a linebacker. He's not even a defensive lineman. Think about it like that. But the final score, 41-21, this game was never close. And Ohio State, it seemed to never really be in doubt for Ohio State. And then the most recent game, Georgia going up against Notre Dame. Notre Dame ended up beating Georgia 23-10. I didn't get to watch a majority of this game, but I do know that their Georgia starting quarterback Carson Beck ended up he did not play in this game, and that's not the reason why they lost. I mean, they could barely get anything done on the ground. Their quarterback played pretty solid, for being a sophomore in a championship game. He played very solid. He threw for 234 yards in the air, threw for 1 touchdown and a QBR of 134. So it wasn't necessarily his fault. It was more so that Georgia could not stop Notre Dame in throughout any facet of this game. The quarterback didn't even really play well for Notre Dame. He ended up only throwing for 90 yards in the air and 1 touchdown. And the run game was also a little bit weak. The running backs combined the running backs, they played a lot better than Georgia's running backs, but again, only combining for 156 yards on the ground, adding those 90 yards in the air. That's around 246 yards total. Again, that's not a winning formula, but ultimately it ended up winning them the game in the end. And really, it was just Now, the game started out very boring. Neither of the teams scored in the first quarter, but Notre Dame quickly came out on top. And once Notre Dame came out on top, Georgia just could not do anything to bounce back afterwards. They did not score. Georgia didn't score in the first nor in the fourth quarter. So, in this matchup, hold on just one second because I do want to bring up the this bracket that I made for the college football playoffs. So just give me just give me 1 second. That was a little bit of an accident. Hold on just 1 second. Let me put this up on the screen real quick. And I will say, this is the wrong side. A little bit of a mistake. There we go. So here is the college football bracket and what it's looking like right now. As you can see, every single team that started out with a bye week, Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona, they all ended up losing in the first game that they played. And this is obviously going to lead into the fourth segment, but I just wanted to show you guys this graphic just to put some flair in and see if you guys like the graphic. But aside from that, that's all that I have on this first segment. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the second segment where I talk about the NBA's All-Star voting, like the fan voting, because the fan voting has recently started. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the